L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. The first thing is Gut Yontif, it's Rosh Chodesh Kislev. This probably, everybody knows the history of Rosh Chodesh Kislev. The Megillus Rosh Chodesh Kislev was printed already, and the things that did occur, the things that didn't occur. B'cholei from the Nekuda is all the same. But I want to bring out a certain point. Sometimes the kashrus to the Rebbe is measured by how much we do. Sometimes this kashrus reaches a deeper part of the heart. What we saw in Shmini Atzeres is the deepest kashrus from Chassidim to the Rebbe, because Chassidim never experienced such a thing. Never experienced that the Rebbe suddenly, middle of a kofis, should not feel well, and the chash for the Rebbe's health, as we all know the history of it. There was a certain Lubavitcher from Yerushalayim, a Rosh Koilel, that when he came back from Shmini Atzeres, he told his father, it's not a Lubavitcher, that you never saw what really kashrus to a Rebbe is unless he would have been Shmini Atzeres in 770. The pshat in them is like this. When Chassidim saw in the middle of that kofis, I was standing mamish close to the Rebbe. I was standing on the floor next to the steps that go onto the bimah. And we saw that the Rebbe wasn't able to clap his, like this by kofis, the Rebbe used to clap very strongly. And we saw the Rebbe standing, he can't clap from hand to hand. And we saw the Rebbe is pale. I'll tell you even furthermore, because I stood close, as during that moment, we were able to see the Rebbe's veins coming out from his face. And as he related later, the Rebbe had terrible pain. It was a terrible heart attack. And when first time that we should see that the Rebbe is sitting down in the middle of a kofis, and b'derech klal, when the Rebbe sat, the Rebbe did not use his whole chair. He never leaned his back on the back of the chair that we see by Farbrengens. The Rebbe always sat bent over, he tilted over to the front. And here we saw the Rebbe sat back, and the Rebbe was massaging his chest, and we knew that the Rebbe is not feeling well. I saw myself bochrim, that Poshet broke out crying, kipshutei, to see the Rebbe in such a state. The worst part of it was that b'shas Maaseh at night, when the doctor started to come, and we found out that it's not a plain heart attack, it's a terrible heart attack. And especially at 5:30 in the morning, as the doctors that were there saw that the heart was mamish sakonis nefashos kipshute. Sakonis nefashos kipshute means everybody knows that when the heart works, so on the monitor you see it goes up and down, up and down. But when you see a straight line going from the monitor from left to right, without any movement going up and down, means that the heart is not functioning at all. And that's exactly what they saw the doctors 5:30, and they did not know what to do, and the Rebbe was not in the hospital. All this leaked out. Then a week later, Dr. Lowen came. He was the one that taught medicine to Dr. Weiss and Dr. Resnick. And he, when he looked over the papers, he looked over the EKG test that they made from the Rebbe, he said the situation is much worse than what the doctors thought, what the doctors diagnosed. I remember walking in Kingston Avenue a week and a half after the Rebbe had the Shmini Atzeres. One of the doctors that was a shtickle Lubavitcher walked out of 770 and he saw me. And I saw he's white and he's trembling, he's pale and he's trembling. I asked him, what happened? He told me, if I would tell you what we heard from the doctor alone right now, I don't believe you'd be able to make another step. That's how bad it was. That means the doctor said that the Rebbe is still in a sakonis nefashos kipshutei. Then there was another aspect. We were used to seeing the Rebbe day in and day out. We saw the Rebbe constantly. Minche, Ma'ariv, every day we saw the Rebbe. Here the Rebbe is locked in his room. And we knew the reason that the Rebbe is locked in his room because the Rebbe is not feeling well. So the tension grew. I'll give you an example. On one of the Shabbosim, it was Take Shabbos, I think, Parshas Noach. The doctors allowed that the Rebbe should come out to Kriyas HaTeireh in the Zal, in the Beis Medrash upstairs. But only 40 Jungelite were allowed to go in to the Zal. Only 40 Jungelite were Agrole. A Bacher, not one Bacher was allowed to go in to the Zal. The Bachrim piled themselves up by the windows, and Rabbi Yael Kanzel Azayin Gesund came running with a stick, and he said, you're standing on the windows, you're blocking the air from entering the Zal, and we know how important it is that the Rebbe should have free air, and he chased away all the Bachrim. So what did the Bachrim do? They should be able to see the Rebbe. They went to the Rebbe's library, and on the fence, on the gate, the cement gate, the Bachrim were pushing. In front of the library, there's like a maike, a gate, and it's pretty wide. And suddenly, the Rebbe noticed from the window, the Rebbe looked, and he saw from the window the way the Bachrim are all pushing from far. How far is it from the window, from the side of the sukkah? And the Bachrim are standing, and the Rebbe smiled. But whoever saw the Rebbe is very pale. And I'll explain you why. We see pictures from the Rebbe from Tovshan Lamed Hey and etc. We see the Rebbe is more full-sized. It's not Chas Shalom that the Rebbe didn't eat a lot. The Rebbe ate a lot of salt. The Rebbe used a lot of salt. The salt does not let the fluid of the body exit. When the Rebbe had the heart attack in Tovshan Lamed Ches, the doctors took away the salt. They left him very little salt. The Rebbe came down to his original size, and also the Rebbe looked very pale. Therefore, you have to understand the Matzav Ruach in 770. I cannot say it was depression, but it was a terrible bitterness. You did not see a smile on the Bacher's face. You did not see a smile on Jungerman's face. Everybody in 770 was going around with his face, as we say, as the Matzav was. The doctors were mamlitz the Rebbe that he should walk. And therefore the doctors wanted the Rebbe to walk already out. You should go home 2-3 days before Rosh Chodesh. So the Rebbe said, Megalgalin schus liyoim zakai, and therefore we should wait till Rosh Chodesh. I remember that the doctors were the ones controlling all what's going out. Not so much the secretaries of the Rebbe, with the doctors. And it was made up that Rosh Chodesh Kislev, 6 o'clock in the evening, it was on a Thursday night, 6 o'clock in the evening, the Rebbe is going to leave 770. It came 6 o'clock, since the doctors felt the biggest mechutonim. The doctors told the Rebbe, there's a large crowd waiting you for Kabbalah Sponim. You have to understand that Chassidim or Maskirim from the Rebbe would never go tell the Rebbe, hey Rebbe, you know you have a crowd waiting for you. But the doctors were doctors, and that's what they felt. So the Rebbe said, if there's a crowd waiting outside, maybe we push it off for another hour till the crowd will disperse. That's what the Rebbe told the doctors. When it came 7 o'clock, so the crowd doubled and tripled, because everybody heard that the Rebbe is coming out, and it was very, very cold weather, and people were just mounting on, people were coming. So the doctors joked, and they told the Rebbe, if the Rebbe will push it off for another hour, they'll be taking planes from California to come to see the Rebbe. So the Rebbe said he'll go out now. He's not going to wait till the crowd swells up more and more. When the Rebbe walked out, and this is what I want to come to Rosh Chodesh Kislev, I don't want to emphasize more the Zman of the time that we went around without heads, and the Bachrim were tzebrochen, and everybody was tzebrochen. I want to focus more on the Yom for Rosh Chodesh Kislev. When the Rebbe opened the door and walked out, we're speaking about spontaneously we started to sing Napoleon's March. It's not like the spontaneous march that you by the Kinus HaShluchim after the roll call. It was spontaneous kipshute. Why? When the Rebbe walked out with full glory. He didn't walk out slow. He walked out like he walked out before the heart attack. There were boys that thought that maybe the Rebbe will come out and the doctors will help him because the Rebbe looked pale and the Rebbe was very skinny. The Rebbe walked out like he walked out before the heart attack. Walking fast, he opened up the door and walked out. As soon as everybody saw the Rebbe, that the Rebbe is the same as before, it means we see the Rebbe gesund, the Olam automatically started to sing Napoleon's March. The Rebbe stopped by the top steps, and the Rebbe started to make, with his hand, encourage the singing very strong. If anybody saw tension that built up after a month and a half, but I'm speaking about tension, real tension, not stam gemachte tension, and it all exploded, that's what happened that moment. The Rebbe walked down from the steps, made with his hands, and the Rebbe walked into the car. I was driving the car behind the Rebbe's car with the other secretaries. Rabbi Krinsky took the Rebbe, and the other secretaries went with me because this was the first time the Rebbe's coming home, and the Rebbe was supposed to go off the car, not by his house, but several houses before, because they wanted the Rebbe to walk. And those that were in the cars were mostly concentrated, not about the singing, were mostly concentrated about the Rebbe's well-being. So I was driving behind the Rebbe's car, and I remember we stopped not next to the Rebbe's house, much before. The Rebbe got out, and so did the secretaries get out. They walked with the Rebbe. The police standing in front of the Rebbe's house jumped out, and they saluted to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe walked into the house. Now, this was the first time that the Rebbe is alone after the heart attack. They never left the Rebbe alone during the time from when the Rebbe had the heart attack, from Shmini Atzeres till now. And it was planned that the Rebbitzen should come right afterwards. That means as soon as the Rebbe goes into the house, the Rebbitzen should go in, come. I drove back towards 770. You can't drive because the whole street was packed with Bachlim in Geleit and with getanzt und sich gegossen Maschke, and all the cars stopped to see what's going on over here. You could feel the enthusiasm in the air. The simcha, the tension that plots, the simcha that came out was so great. Al Kapanim, the Rebbitzen was supposed to go home, but she saw from the window from the second floor what's going on, and the Rebbitzen was such a person that did not want any type of COVID, and she knew that if she'll go out now, they'll make a whole issue from her. She was standing by the window, and she said, "Das seinen Chevlai." She said in Russian. She said, I don't know the Russian word, I don't know Russian, but she said, "Das einen Mensch, das eine Chevlai." She really enjoyed the fact from the simcha from the city. There's a word she said, but that I never checked, that she said that from Gimel Tammuz Tovrish Peizayin, or Yubes Tammuz Tovrish Peizayin, Rosh Chodesh Kislev Tovshel Lamed Ches, she hasn't seen such a moment from simcha. But the problem is that the Rebbitzen is not going out. And they're trying to disperse the Bachrim, to move them away because the Rebbitzen should go out. But the Bachrim are so into the dancing, they're not even listening. So finally they were asking him to make a gigantic shvil, that the Rebbitzen, not a regular shvil, a gigantic shvil, that it shouldn't be look heilu that the Rebbitzen is going in a shvil. It should be. So I remember the Rebbitzen walked down. When you make a shvil for a person, so the person walks right in the middle. The Rebbitzen bent down, and she ran to the side of the shvil like there's something more, a person more important than her that's supposed to go through the shvil, and sie habt rein the shvil to run through. That's what it looked like. We know that when the Rebbe, when we had to go up the maftir, so they made a big shvil. So what happened when they made a big shvil? You had those guys that wanted to hop a closer place. They used to run the shvil to the side to get closer. That's what the Rebbitzen did. And then the Rebbitzen came home. Al Kaponim, that night, they danced till 2 o'clock in the morning, till 12 o'clock in the morning without a stop with the Sefer Torah. There was a real simcha. I didn't even know you had to take mashke. There was mashke taken, but the simcha was not mitzvah the mashke. I told the story and it was already, the video, there was a Dr. Resnick there. I always tell the story. Dr. Resnick was a ish sichli. Dr. Weiss was very emotional. Anybody that knows Dr. Weiss knows that he's a very emotional person. And Dr. Resnick hated emotion. Emotion, that's for ladies and children. Men have to be intellectual and not let the heart be emotional. That was his shita, and he was like a very smart man. And anytime he saw anybody emotional, he would laugh at it. What's emotion? They gave him, because he was the doctor on the premises, they gave him that Holler's room, Reb Shlomo Zalchi's room, what was called Reb David Raskin's room. Reb Shlomo remembers it. They put in a bed, and the doctor was there. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I knew Dr. Resnick very well, because before they brought him to the Rebbe, he used to come to our house a lot, and we were pretty close. So I was ready after a lot of l'chaim. 2 o'clock in the morning, I knock at his door, and I said, I got to wake up this doctor. Nobody's sleeping in Rosh Chodesh Kislev at night. And he said, I screamed, Larry. That was his name, Larry Resnick. And I didn't make no cheshbenis, you're walking into the doctor's room, but I was after l'chaim. But I heard him say right away, come in. I opened the door, he wasn't laying in bed sleeping. He was sitting on the bed and crying. I couldn't hold myself back, and I told him, Larry, emotion? You that scream emotion for ladies and for children, you're crying now. So he told me, and this is what he told me, I've never seen such a thing in my life. The kashrus from Rebbe to Chassidim so strong, just because the Rebbe is going home, this busted out such an emotional, he never saw such a thing. No, he didn't grow up in Crown Heights, he didn't see what Rebbe Chassidim are. He never saw such a thing, this was something that he couldn't conceive. Al Kapanim, I sat for another hour and two, and I tried to explain to him how much I can, that the Rebbe Chassidim, this is not a father and a son, it's much more than that. I was after the Chaim, when we spoke, he understood me. The next morning, when the Rebbe came, so he went into the Rebbe for an hour. And I was downstairs where we're learning. So he goes out of the Rebbe, he's looking for me. So I had to call him, Mendy, come. So I went up. He says, guess what? So I said, I could guess. I was by the Rebbe now. What could I guess? The Rebbe told me there were only 2 people that didn't dance. Everybody danced the whole night. Only 2 people, the Rebbe says. You and me. And the Rebbe says, this Shabbos, I want you to dance double. Not only for yourself, but for me also. As soon as that came out, because everybody was scared how the Rebbe will accept the fact that they danced all night. I'll tell you even furthermore, it was Rosh Chodesh. And that morning they made Agrole who could go into Kriyas HaTorah. So it went through Ois Aleph and Ois Gimel. That's the 2 Oises that came out. So since my family name is with Gimel, I was able to go in. Everybody drank. All the Bachlen there drank. But when the Rebbe comes in, everybody's scared. But we didn't want the Rebbe to see us, so we all pushed ourselves to the side, to the clock. That means to that side, we have today the copper windows. The Rebbe walked in, and he gave a look at us. First of all, whoever walked into the Zal was able to smell a heavy smell of vodka. Why? Because b'shas you have 40, 50 bachrim that drank all night, it's impossible, you shouldn't smell in the room an odor from vodka. The Rebbe looked, he didn't smile, the Rebbe was very, very serious, but the Rebbe looked at us. That's how we found out, how did the Rebbe know they danced all night? The Rebbe saw Pasha Kipshuta. I mean, you didn't have to have Mamish Ruach HaKodesh. What went on that Shabbos was Mendy. I remember Reb Shlomo had getanzt, a ganze Shabbos, Reb Yael, it was Mamish Mendy. Well, I want to come to the last point. We were Farbrengen, and we were Farbrengen getanzt, and it was already after Shabbos. And we're still in the middle of the Farbrengen. Suddenly, we hear that the Rebbe is going home now. That means the Rebbe is going. But the Rebbe already might is going home. So we all ran outside, and the Rebbe is going to the car. And I find myself standing next to Dr. Resnick, the one that the Rebbe said that he should dance double. And the Rebbe goes into the car. And we were standing behind the car. The Rebbe suddenly turns around completely to Dr. Resnick, and the Rebbe points to him like this: "No, dance, no, dance." He told the Rebbe that Friday that he doesn't know to dance. He never danced. Taka, intellectual, so go dance. The Rebbe says, don't worry, the Chassidim will teach you how to dance. Al Kapanim, what I want to bring out is like this. It was a Chag, a Yom Tov, that was made up by Chassidim. That means who was the one that created the whole Yom Tov Rosh Chodesh Kislev? That was Chassidim. And the Rebbe accepted it. And the Rebbe not only accepted it, the Rebbe encouraged it. And interesting to say, people thought that it will fade down after years, especially after Gimel Tammuz, and we see it's a Maisa from 42 years in the ganze Welt, in the whole world. Rosh Chodesh Kislev is celebrated. In Parshat Kipshuti, the Simcha, from what? It's not that the Rebbe was in jail and he went out. It's not that the Rebbe was in the hospital, he went out. The Rebbe was in his room, and he was able to go home. But the fact, what was the Simcha? The fact that we were able to see the Rebbe again. For a month and a half, we didn't see the Rebbe. The Rebbe went out to the library the day before because the Sfarim came. That's a story for itself. The Sfarim from Poland came. And me and my brother were in the Rebbe's, in the library setting up the Sfarim at the tables, and suddenly the Rebbe walked into the library. We knew the Rebbe was coming, but that was only some people saw it. Here, the whole crowd was able to see the Rebbe, and from then on, the Rebbe went home regularly. So the Simcha was on the Gilui, that the Rebbe, the same Rebbe was there before and after, that the Rebbe was able to come back to us. So we have to say L'chaim tonight, Omedav Takazich Freyen, in the Daladamis from Rebbe, and we have to be zoichet that we should be able to have the same Gilui again, the same Isgalus again. The Yesa says, and as the Rebbe Yemel said on Simchas Torah, the Rebbe told my father like this: every Helem is b'shvil Gilui. Remember that. The Rebbe said the Helem is b'shvil Gilui. Kavanas Hatzimtza b'shvil Gilui. And the Rebbe gave a dugme. When you take a blood test, how does the blood come in? How does the blood come into this thing that you're taking out the blood? So the Rebbe said, through Amokim Cholol. And then the Rebbe said, Zogan das Rebbe Yael, and Rebbe Yael elaborate on this scene. And Kachav, Rebbe Yael explained the whole Indian. So this scene from Kavalas HaHelem, it's Shvil HaGilui. The Helem we have in Gimel Tamas is Eina Reich to what was Shmini Atzeres. So the Gilui that will be afterwards is much stronger. So my time is up. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. So sein Atzlocha de Rosh Chodesh Kislev, l'chaim.